In the past 24 hours, we've seen Bitcoin sell off approximately 7%, along with a lot of altcoins being down 20 to 30% on the day. In addition to that, we've seen over $1 billion liquidated from the crypto market in the past 24 hours as Bitcoin and these altcoins have taken a dump to the downside. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I'm looking for in the charts and where I think Bitcoin and a lot of these altcoins are going to trade over the end of this month and into the new year. So let's get started. So starting with Bitcoin here, I want to be giving you the context to the situation we are currently in here, basically giving you context for where the chart has been trading and what I've been looking for the past few weeks, just to give you guys an idea of how I've been trading this market so you guys can get an idea for how I'm looking to trade it here in the future. So if we take a look here at the 2-hour time frame here, this trend indicator here is simply the 200 EMA and the 200 MA with the area in between filled in. It is a custom indicator I have, but it is simply the 200 EMA and MA. If you want this custom indicator, link will be in the description below. With that being out of the way, if you take a look here, you can see I've been watching, I've made a lot of posts on Twitter, in the Discord, Telegram as well, my free Telegram channel. You will see here, this 2-hour trend has been holding as support. I've mentioned this multiple times. This is the trend I've been paying attention to. So you can see how to support here, a little bit of a deviation here, but we ended up reclaiming it before continuing higher. And as you can see recently, it has been very well respected. You can see we've had one test, tested it twice. Even this wick here, we wicked well below it, taking out this previous low here. And we've had a little bit of volatility here with these wicks here along this 2-hour trend. So I want to show you guys, if we zoom out here to the daily time frame, if you take a look here, these fib extensions, I've mentioned them multiple times as well, drawn from the cycle high to the cycle low. You come up with this 1.618, 2.618, 3.618, and so on. And as I mentioned before, this 1.618, we did tap it. So our next target here would be the 2.618 at about $156,000. That's as long as these trends remain intact. Now, typically when we see the 1.618 tested, we often see some consolidation or sort of a range form before continuation higher into that 2.618 fib extension. So what I'm looking for here essentially is some sort of range to possibly form, or just this consolidation to break upwards to the upside as long as these trends hold. Now, if we zoom in here, I'm going to show you. Take a look at this 2-hour trend again. I am continuing to use this as a trend pusher out here. Now, keep in mind, it is getting a bit choppy here. So you can see we are having these wicks below it. Really, the really key trend here, in my opinion, is these 4-hour 200s. I think this will be the key trend to pay attention to going forward from here because of how choppy the 2-hour 200s are starting to become. So basically what we want to see here is as long as these 4-hour 200s hold, I would continue to look for more upside. So as you can see here, previously, we tested it, perfect tap of it before continuation higher. Even before here, we were respecting it very well as well. So basically, as long as 4-hour 200s hold, 2-hour 200s I am paying attention to, but I'm switching more over to basically this general area here with 4-hour 200s, kind of confluent here with these range lows. As long as it holds, this general area here holds, I am looking for continuation higher. Now, I want to show you guys a fractal here real quick. If we go back to January of 2024, this price action here, basically December of 23, October, November, December of 23, and into January of 24. So if I copy this price action starting about here and copying it all the way to here, I want to show you something here. If I drag it up here, just so you guys can see here, look, take a look at this price action. Now, I'm taking the time-based factor out of it. So if we just draw it down basically more to current price action here, make it a little bit smaller. There we go. So take a look at this. You can see here, we have this chop, this grinding price action higher here, basically just chopping everyone up before expansion higher. Take a look at this price action. We basically have chop here before expansion higher. And then this ends up in becoming a range, as you can see. And as you can see here, we now have a range. Lower time frame range. Now, of course, the high time frame trend is still intact, but we do have a range formed here. And as you can see, even here, very similar to this one. We got that spike up, and then we're getting this sell-off here as well. We got the sell-off down here, and then it ended up taking out range lows here before continuation higher from there. So it is looking very similar to that January 24 price action. So I am keeping that in mind here. So I'm going to just redraw my range here. As you can see, it's not being respected too well. And typically when you have these sell-offs here, the very wick low and the wick high before that sell-off is often respected. So I'm going to switch my range to here because I think this will be a much cleaner range going forward. So if we do start to range here, what I would be looking for here is essentially a repeat of this price action right here. So if we get some kind of chop forming here, and then we see a sell-off, deviation, reclaim, continuation higher, not even a deviation, just a quick liquidity grab here. You don't want to see too much time spent below this range. You just want to see it grab liquidity below this low before continuing higher. And that's when I do think we would probably see that breakout above $104,000 and continuation higher. So this is what I'm keeping on my chart here for now. Basically, we have sort of a range formed here, as well as these 4-hour 200s confluent with basically this range low here. If we end up losing these 4-hour 200s as well as this range low here, we are probably in for a deeper pullback into something possibly like these daily 200s. Maybe they'll be up here at about $80,000 by then, but I don't think we see these range lows as well as these 4-hour 200s lost at all, simply because we're in a very bullish price action right now. So as long as basically, like I said before, 4-hour 200s range low hold, I'm continuing to look for target higher for a move into that 2.618 at $156,000. So that's basically all I have for Bitcoin. Basically just a summary of that. Basically hold this general $90,000 level and I continue to target higher. If we end up losing it, that's when I get worried and we probably see a pullback deeper into about $80,000 if I had to guess. And of course, I'll keep posting updates on Twitter as well, so you can keep notifications on there. But if we take a look here next at Ethereum, if we take a look here, let me just show you this chart here. There we go. Okay, so take a look at these 1-hour 200s. This is the trend I've been mentioning for Ethereum for quite some time. 1-hour 200s there, and as well as this high time frame resistance at about this $4,000 level. So basically what I was saying before was, as long as we can see $4,000 reclaimed, we can look for continuation into $4,900. But as you can see here, we have lost these 1-hour 200s trend. So basically upon losing this local trend here, I would look for the next higher time frame trend to be tested before possible continuation higher. So if we zoom out here, the next trend that I was watching is the 4-hour 200s, which historically are not respected here within this range, simply because it's ranging price action. But as you can see, when price is trending, it is very well respected. So basically what I'm looking for here is a test of these 4-hour 200s. So if we get a sell-off once again, who knows? But as long as 4-hour 200s hold, I'm looking for continuation higher. And same thing as Bitcoin, if we end up losing those 4-hour 200s, I would expect probably a much deeper pullback for Ethereum, probably into about that $3,000 level. But I don't think we get that because 4-hour 200s are still intact and pretty bullish price action. To be honest, we took liquidity here, as well as we didn't quite grab this liquidity. We might have got it on Bybit though. We'd have to see. But also, if we if we end up front running those 4-hour 200s and we just simply end up reclaiming these 1-hour 200s, that's when I would look for continuation higher and we no longer target a test of those 4-hour 200s. So basically price action is currently in no man's land for me. Either I want to bid here with a test of those 4-hour 200s, or I would look to bid a reclaim of these 1-hour 200s. So if we just see something like this here, price reclaims them, you look to bid a retest and look to target higher from there. That next level for me would be that previous all-time high at about $4,800. So basically, I'm not doing anything in this area here for Ethereum. I'm just waiting for a reclaim of 1 hour 200s or that test of 4 hour 200s to bid. But in general, I am staying. Let me just get that level back here real quick. There we go. But basically, in general, as long as those 4 hour 200s hold, I am continuing to stay bullish on Ethereum. Just looking for a possibly a low time frame pullback here into those 4 hour 200s before continuation higher. But in general, I am staying high time frame bullish for Ethereum as long as those 4 hour 200s hold. I don't see any reason to be bearish as long as those remain intact. So now if we move into some of the altcoins, let's get into Solana. I've made a pretty good amount of posts on Solana the past week because of how the setup was forming here. If we take a look here at the 4 hour 200s, switch to the 4 hour time frame, you can see previous tests of the 4 hour 200s resulted in a massive expansion higher. But as you can see here, we have finally, with this 4 hour close here, it looks like we have lost these 4 hour 200s. Now this great reaction here, we swept liquidity here below previous low into demand, into the 4 hour 200s before continuation higher. But instead of holding there, we simply sold off lower, formed a lower high, maybe a little wick here, but in general formed a lower high before continuation lower. So basically you have this low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, and once again a lower low. So to be honest, I do not like how this looks currently. Now you could say maybe this is just some sort of random wick here. But for me, that whole idea of Solana continuing higher from here could still be intact if we end up just holding basically this general blue box here, and this ends up just being a liquidity sweep here. But if we start doing something like this, where we fail to reclaim these 4 hour 200s, we reject from them and we start selling off, then my whole idea is completely invalidated. And I would look for a move, much lower from there. You do not want to see it reject from these 4 hour 200s. Otherwise, probably get a sell off back down to the next level at about 194, 190 area. So if we take a look here on lower time frames, maybe there's some sort of trend we could watch. Just choppy price action. So I would say basically 4 hour 200s here is what you want to watch. If it can get back above these 4 hour 200s, so if we see an immediate reclaim of 4 hour 200s, that's when my whole idea that I made a YouTube video about it before, and an in-depth post on Twitter. So if you take a look at that, you can see my whole thesis. Basically, whole thesis is as long as these 4 hour 200s hold, I would look for continuation higher into price discovery and that $420 level at the 1.618 fib extension. But it is looking to be invalidated here. Now, I would want a couple more 4 hour closes possibly here to completely invalidate it. But I'm just going to go ahead and say it has been invalidated until we see a reclaim of these 4 hour 200s. If these 4 hour 200s are reclaimed, then I can look for continuation higher from there. But for now, it has started to roll over and starting to sell off to the downside. And especially if it starts to do something like this, where it comes up, bearish retests it and continues lower, not a very good look. So all I'll say basically is, now, of course, this could just end up being a very bottom. A lot of times in bull markets, we flush that leverage before continuing higher. And that's why I'm saying if we reclaim these 4 hour 200s, then I can once again target that $420 level. But for now, it is looking invalidated, unfortunately. And also confluent with that, if we take a look at Sol versus ETH here, as you can see, I was mentioning before this trend here, basically as long as it holds, I would continue to look for Solana to outperform ETH. It is still intact, but Solana losing those 4 hour 200s as well as basically ETH, it's still, Solana versus ETH, it's still holding this trend as well as this area in general. But I don't like how it basically retraced this entire pump here. It's starting to look more like, I mean, we do have this daily 200s trend, but it's not really respected, to be honest. Here it is, maybe. So it might end up holding here. But it's starting to look more like a deviation than it is a retest before continuation higher. So I want to give this see how this weekly closes, but as long as it can hold here, it still has a chance to outperform ETH, but it is starting to look more like a deviation. And especially with Solana showing that weakness here by losing those 4-hour 200s, it's not that good of a look in my opinion. It looks like we could just possibly end up underperforming. Whoops, that's ETH. Versus it looks like we just end up underperforming ETH. Whereas if you take a look here, ETH is still well above its 4-hour 200s, where Solana has already lost them. So yeah, unfortunately, I was hoping for Solana to show strength there. Looks like we did not get that, at least for now. It's part of the game. Can't win everything. And like always, I try to keep all my trades and everything transparent. So yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Move on, find the next trade. Is what it is. Okay, so if we start taking a look at some of these other altcoins here, another one that I had mentioned before was Bonk. I was looking for basically a weekly support as well as 4-hour 200s to hold. If we zoom out here, let me just turn off this trend real quick. There we go. Basically, weekly support, 4-hour 200s confluent, looking for a continuation higher into price discovery. This support is still holding. Now, if we take a look here at the 4-hour 200s, we have closed one 4-hour candle below it. So it is looking like the trend may be lost here, which is not a good look. Now, what I would say is ideally, I would wait for another 4-hour trend, another 4-hour candle to close before making a general decision on it. Now, of course, if you had a leverage trade open, you were probably stopped unless you had your stop loss way below here or something. If you're holding spot in general, I would say simply hold. I mean, it depends what kind of trade you're trying to do with your spot, if you're just holding it for long term. But in general, I would say as long as this weekly support holds, I would continue to look for higher. If this weekly support is lost and it deviates back inside of this range and finds acceptance back inside here, it's probably going to start selling back off to this mid-range. Yeah, is what it is. But I don't think we see that, to be honest, as long as this weekly support holds. 4-hour 200s, ideally what you want to see here is a quick reclaim of 4-hour 200s, and then we can look for that continuation higher, just for a leverage trade. If you did manage to snag one of these entries, to be honest, you can probably put your stop loss just below this wick, simply because we grab liquidity here. And if it is going to show strength, it should continue higher from here and not just bleed all the way back down to the bottom of this wick. If it does that, it's probably continuing lower from there. You want to see continuation higher from here, with this wick being the bottom, in my opinion. So basically, just summarizing that, weekly support, as long as it holds, look for continuation into previous all-time high and price discovery. If you're looking for a leverage trade, I would wait for a 4-hour 200s reclaim before continuation higher, in my opinion. Otherwise, if you start to see this price action, same thing as Solana, where it rolls over, something like this here, starts rejecting from it, it's probably once again going to sell off down into this support. Okay, so moving on to Pepe. Pepe has been showing a lot of strength. Back here, we were looking for a test of the previous all-time high before continuation higher. We got that test and continued higher into price discovery. And as you can see, showing a lot of strength compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of these other altcoins at the moment, holding up very well. So all you want to see here is basically 2-hour 200s hold. You can see trend is being respected on the way up here. As long as these 2-hour 200s hold, I'm continuing to target higher into that 2.618 fib extension. If we zoom out here, you can see 2.618 at about 3.036 level. As long as it holds, I'm looking for that 2.618, 3.618, and so on, as long as that trend holds. If you're looking for a trade setup, just look, in my opinion, simply looking to bid a test of those 2-hour 200s. Ideally confluent with some support, so maybe this level here, although to be honest, you probably don't want to see it sell back off down to here. But yeah, if you get a chance to bid those 2-hour 200s, that is a good buying opportunity in my opinion before continuing higher. If 2-hour 200s break down, then I would stop targeting those fib extensions, but for now they remain intact. So as long as this trend holds here, like I said before, you can add it to your chart. It's pretty simple. Just go into my description, click on the link and add it to your favorites, and it'll show right up on your indicators. But as long as it holds, yeah, continue to look for higher. Okay, another altcoin that I've been taking a look at is Ondo. So Ondo 1 hour 200s has been holding as a very clean uptrend. You can see holding as support the entire way up. And just recently, you can see we lost it, bearish retested it, and continuing lower here. So what I would look for is a pullback into the next major area of next higher time frame trend or next support level. And if we zoom out here, we are just testing the previous all-time high. So this could very easily simply be a quick tap of the previous all-time high before continuing higher. But what I will say is as long as it remains below those 1 hour 200s, I am looking for a pullback into this 4 hour 200s trend. So maybe we get test of basically this demand here. Before continuation higher, bleed back down into here before continuing higher. Now, ideally, in my opinion, you probably do not want to see it retrace this entire pump. So ideally, you would see just a quick wick into 4 hour 200s, maybe 4 hour 200s pull up at about like this 140 level. But if we end up reclaiming these 1 hour 200s, get back above them, see them retested. So something like this here. That's when I will continue to target higher then into that next fib extension, which is the 1.618, I believe. Let's just zoom out here. Let me draw my fib extensions again. Yeah, so 1.618. As long as 1 hour 200s are reclaimed, I would look to bid a retest before looking for continuation higher into that $2.10 area. On a reclaim of 1 hour 200s. In the meantime, this is kind of no man's land for me. I'm going to let this settle out. If we see a reclaim, I'd look to bid it for continuation higher. Otherwise, if I get the opportunity to get some bids filled around in this 128 area with 4 hour 200s confluent, that would be a pretty good opportunity as well. So as you're seeing, a lot of these altcoins are kind of in no man's land at the moment for me. We've broken down below lower time frame trends. So let me just show you basically where the market is right now. So we see lower time frame trends here. Actually, let me just draw this here. So basically, we see lower time frame trends here with your higher time frame trends about down in this region here. Okay. With price doing this, and then we've seen this and this. Okay. So now these trends are going to start to roll over if we start consolidating below these local trends. And that's when we see that sell off into that higher time frame trend where you get to bid that higher time frame trend before continuation higher. Now currently price is here. So we're basically in no man's land. You don't necessarily want to bid here and because it could just end up rejecting from here and continuing lower into that high time frame trend. So what I would say is simply wait for the reclaim. Either you want to wait for the reclaim of the lower time frame trend or that test of the higher time frame trend. In the meantime, it's just a waiting game in my opinion, and just wait for those setups to form. Now, of course, if your strategy does provide opportunity in this region, so like somewhere in here, then go ahead and feel free to take the trade. But for me personally, it's simply waiting for a reclaim or a test of those higher time frame trends at the moment. Okay. So moving on to another altcoin, meme coin that I've been watching, Floki. Basically, we were watching these 4 hour 200s for continuation higher. And you can see we got this test. Even this test here was confluent with this support. So as long as it held, I was continuing to look for a move higher. And as you can see, the trend remains intact, which is actually kind of surprising compared to a bunch of other altcoins out there at the moment and meme coins because they have started to break down below it. Bonk, for example, is starting to break down below it. But 4 hour 200s are still holding. So as long as 4 hour 200s hold here, I would continue to target higher from here into range highs and then price discovery with your fib extensions from there if we end up breaking out above range highs. But you just need to see these 4 hour 200s hold for continuation higher. Pretty simple. 4 hour 200 EMA, 4 hour 200 MA, 4 hour 200 MA. As long as they hold, looks good for higher, break down below it, and then we might see that deeper pullback. But still remain intact at the moment. Okay, here's another example. 4 hour 200s, we were looking for continuation higher as long as they held. We got continuation, but we ended up breaking down below it here. So it is showing weakness compared to Floki, for example, or Pepe. So in my opinion, instead of trading with or Bonk, you're better off trading coins like Pepe and Floki, which are all above their higher time frame trends at the moment. And Pepe is even above its lower time frame trend, the 2 hour 200s. So yeah, Pepe and Floki, as well as even Ondo, which is above 4 hour 200s, still a better coin to trade at the moment, in my opinion, than something like With or even Solana, which is breaking down below its high time frame trend as well. Okay, so With, all I will say on this chart real quick is, personally, I'm not looking to trade it. It's in a high time frame range. We are just chopping around at the moment, below 4 hour 200s now. A lot of chop here. Nice push higher before cascade below it, and we have lost this trend. If we end up reclaiming it, then I can look for continuation higher, but at the moment, it could just start to chop around some more. Not something I want to be trading at the moment unless we see it start to trend once again above 4 hour 200s. If it starts to trend above there, then I will continue to look for higher. But at the moment, just completely avoiding it. We could just see a bunch of chop form here, in my opinion. Okay, moving on to BNB. Pretty simple chart here. You can see we basically have this high time frame resistance. You can see we broke out above this high time frame resistance, and we are currently retesting it. So it's pretty simple here. Very clean 4 hour 200s trend here as well. As long as it can hold this 675 area here with 4 hour 200s, I would look for continuation into this $970 level at the 1.618 fib extension. All you got to see is basically 670 hold and 4 hour 200s here. As long as it holds, it looks really good here, in my opinion, for continuation into that 970 level. So yeah, like even better than With, like I was saying before. Why would you trade this when you can be trading something as a clean breakout, retest, and looking good for continuation higher? If you're looking to take this setup, I would say simply bid here, stop below this wick, and look for continuation higher from there. Very clean setup. Okay, moving on. Doge, if we take a look out here at the daily time frame, you can see really the only level left to target is the previous all-time high. And if we zoom in here to the 4 hour time frame, or even in further, let's see if there was any trend it was respecting. It was pretty choppy here, but yeah, you can see 2 hour 200s, very similar to Bitcoin. Basically, we're holding as support. Even here, yeah, like the entire way up was holding as very clear support. We have ended up closing below it now. So like the other coins like Solana, if it starts to roll over here, does not look good. Could continue lower into probably, I mean, 4 hour 200s are pretty clean as well. But let's see if, I wonder what, let's go here. Let's see what 12 hour 200s look like. Yeah, so 12 hour 200s are pretty clean. So we probably see a retest of this support at least upon loss of 2 hour 200s here. So as long as it remains below it, I would look for this previous low to get tested. 4 hour 200s typically are respected in a bull market as well, so we could end up holding this. But for me, as long as 2 hour 200s are not reclaimed, I'm continuing to look for lower. But if we end up reclaiming these 2 hour 200s here, that's when I can go back to targeting higher. So I would look to bid a retest after a reclaim and continuation into that previous all-time high. So pretty simple. Like a lot of the other altcoins, just waiting for reclaims or tests of those higher time frame trends. And let's go ahead and cover a few more altcoins here. XRP is another one we can take a look at. Just show you guys real quick. If you zoom out to the daily time frame. Actually, you know what? Let me use a different chart here. XRP USD Bitstamp chart. There we go. Got some more history on it. So basically we have this 2017 high here. We did take out this 2021 high, but we still have that 2017 high here. And if we zoom in here to the 4-hour 200s, you can see pretty respected down here as well. We haven't tested them at all on the way up. But if we zoom into the 1-hour 200s, this trend has held the entire way up. We've even tested it here once, continued higher. We've tested it, if I delete this fractal real quick, we've tested it here, tried to hold it before selling off below it. So the best case scenario for XRP here, in my opinion, is if this ends up being liquidity grab, basically this price action, liquidity grab, liquidation cascade, whatever you want to call it, and this just ends up running back into mid-range and range highs because it has formed a range here. You can see, let me just lock that there. There we go. So we've formed a range here. 1-hour 200s is broken below though. So if we cannot hold, basically this, if it's going to be a liquidity grab, if we cannot hold these lows and see a reclaim of these 1-hour 200s, and instead it just starts to roll over here, like some of those other altcoins I was mentioning. If instead we see this bounce here, bearish retest it, and continue, start selling off here, it's probably going to sell off all the way into these 4-hour 200s, if not marking, possibly marking a top here, in my opinion. So basically for XRP, as long as it remains below those 1-hour 200s, I'm looking for continuation lower into those 4-hour 200s here at about $1.65. But we do need to see, we need to see how price action forms basically. This could just be a range with a quick liquidity grab below it before continuing higher. But yeah, 1-hour 200s is the key trend to reclaim before continuation higher. Okay, but going back to this fractal here on Bitcoin, like I was mentioning before, basically we see this move up here, choppy price action, followed by a range before deviation and continuation higher. So like I said before, it is something I am keeping in mind here. And like I said before, this is basically where we're at with a lot of these altcoins, where you see these low time frame trends. Let me just redraw it here. You see these low time frame trends with price continuing higher along them before this quick wick below, and now it's going sideways a bit with these higher time frame trends still below current price. So what you want to be watching for, like I said before, just to summarize here for you guys, you want to look for a reclaim of these lower time frame trends for continuation higher, or look to bid a test of these higher time frame trends here. In between here, not too much to do in my opinion, because it could just end up just rolling over here and continuing lower. So you just want to wait for that reclaim, retest the lower time frame trend, or that test of the high time frame trend before bidding. But yeah, basically just to summarize with everything, yeah, Bitcoin, possibly a range forming here. Trend still intact, so continuing to look for higher, but keeping in mind that a range could be forming here. As well as a lot of altcoins breaking down below their lower time frame trends, but still remaining above their high time frame trends. We have seen a lot of liquidations happen over the past 24 hours. So if it is going to start trending higher from here, if we start seeing a lot of continuation higher here across the board going into the next into the next day, I would say, if we see a lot of these altcoins really start to bounce, I would think we see a decent push higher into the end of the month. But if we start seeing everything just go sideways here, we could probably be seeing another sell-off, in my opinion, into those higher time frame trends, with Bitcoin just simply going back down to range lows here before possibly continuing higher. So hopefully you found this video helpful today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And like I always mentioned before, I do daily updates in my free Telegram. Link will be in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments section. And hopefully you enjoyed. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Be greatly appreciated. And see you guys next time. Peace.